New year, new me. Doesn't work for me. Big dramatic changes don't work. I need to be truly self motivated, and for me, change takes time. As much as I don't want it to, it does. And so I'm doing this video, I guess, to show you that I'm more than just my romantic and sexual attraction to men. I want to show you a bit of my humanity. I want to bring you the whole thing, me all messy as well, because it's actually something that I've been working on recently. An acceptance of the fact that I'm a flawed human being. And it's difficult to do because the more I look at myself, the more I see that I'm not who I curate and present to the world. And the difficult part about that is just accepting that you are who you are based on your history. So some people don't have the same history and they've achieved successes that the world endorses, but perhaps because you've had your particular history, your successes are limited to what you can then achieve. And that feels pretty shite. But that's just the reality. So let me tell you about what I do. I basically tried to continue what I was doing the year before and aim for consistency. And what that looks like in my life, and I guess I could start from the night before, right? Is that I have a routine planned out. And my goal is to put this routine into practice. I'm trying also, though, not to be too strict about it because a tendency I have is to be really hard on myself. But the idea is that the little things that you do every day add up to your bigger goals, right? So, and I'm going to tell you everything. The night before, I'm supposed to be getting into bed by 9 o'clock. And there have been times when I've been consistent with this and it has worked really well because my phone will go into nighttime mode at 8, so the screen goes black and white. My tendency is to switch that off and continue doing whatever I was doing, which is usually falling down the hole, which is my IG stream, until crazy hours as a form of self-soothing, right? Because especially in the last couple of months when I was taking care of my mom who was ill and dying of cancer, and taking care of the household, managing home care for them as well. The only time I had was after maybe 8 o'clock, after I'd taken care of things, to then be with myself and enjoy me time. But the problem is that I didn't want to go to bed because the next day would come too quickly and I'd end up just staying up really late. So this is something I'm trying to get back to now that, the funeral was last week, Monday, and I am now no longer getting harassed by people. I'm sorry, people, but I know that you want to say your express your sentiments, but for you it's one person. For me it's been like a gazillion of people just finding my number because it's Barbados, so it's easy to ask two people and then you have somebody's contact and calling me up, and yeah, it's been pretty much a nightmare because every time somebody calls and asks how are you doing and oh, my condolences, it would bring me right back to my mother's death. Anyway, so I'm trying to get back to that, which then leads to me waking up early around 6 o'clock to go into the garden. I was doing lots of gardening. The garden's gone back to Eden because I've not been able to get into it for a while. But that's something I really enjoy. It's a part of my self-care because you don't think about it as exercise, but you get a lot of exercise from that. And Also, just contact with nature and the plant is very therapeutic, I think. So after that, I come in and maybe I prepare a meal. So I'm supposed to be doing a meal prep, perhaps on Sundays, and I have been pretty consistent with that. I do a big batch of rice with different peas. So sometimes with beans, sometimes with field peas, sometimes with beans, brown beans. And so then I just have to take it out of the freezer and thaw it and steam vegetables, a salad I do. As a vegan, I will sometimes buy some Beyond Meat products like the chicken fingers. Although I feel like I maybe at some point want to cut down on processed foods. Anyway, so that's done, and I'm trying not to lie down after I eat because my tendency is to lie down to do whatever I'm going to do next, which is practice my languages. I haven't done that in, again, about 2 months because I just didn't have the time. But I will, that looks like listening to radio stations on an app in the particular language, Spanish, Portuguese. I I thought that French was too much, but I used to be maybe I was like B1, B2 in French fluency. I mean, I got a grade one in CXC French. What does that mean exactly? But I think it may mean that I could have a conversation about basic things. And but it's the accent that I really like and I can really imitate. Spanish, not so much on the accent, but because Spanish and Portuguese are so similar, they one of them tends to dominate. Right now, my Portuguese is dominating because I visited Portuguese. I visited Brazil last year and spent 2 months, and yeah, so that's a bit of a mess as well because I find it difficult to be motivated because maybe I'm studying the same way that I've always been studying, and it's just difficult to find new ways to do it when you're not living the language. And I mean, I watch movies, but it can be a bit frustrating because Spanish from Spain is difficult for me to understand because of the accent, because of the speed at which they speak. And then there's not a lot of movies, for example, in Latin American countries in general. But I try to find different things to do. An idea that I have is presentations, to find a topic and create a presentation and present it and record myself presenting it and try to get better at that. So that's functional. It's something that I'm actually using and talking about a topic. So that is the plan. After that, I guess I have some free time and I've taught myself to juggle. Wait, do I have them here? I have them here. I don't know if I can juggle sitting down. I've never done that before, but I've been like teaching myself to juggle, and and let's see if I can do this. Yeah, so I've been teaching myself to juggle, so I can like maybe try out some tricks. I don't have my kit with me, but I'm also teaching myself to pick locks, to be a lock picker. And my brother brought back from Brasilia. He was there a couple of weeks ago, and he brought me back a berimbau. So I want to practice my berimbau. Ching 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 ching. Only, I don't know if I want to practice stuff for capoeira because I don't really play capoeira anymore. But we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. So those are things because I always want to learn an instrument, and I think the berimbau is interesting because of that connection to Brazil, to capoeira, to the language that I speak, because I lived in Brazil when I was a student for 4 to 5 years. And once I'm done those things, well, there's a cat Spit that I feed twice a day. She only lets me touch her when she's eating. But I appreciate that the relationship is more on her terms than mine. And so I feed her, and then I fall into watching shite on one of the streaming services that I use. Right now it has been Dune. Prophecy, I think it's called. It's pretty good, but I like any sort of sci-fi story that's convincing enough, you know. But then I kind of want to do some self-care before bed. I've gotten in the habit of not doing these things in my bed. I used to like listen to the radio or studying my languages. So I have another area that actually I'm in it right now, a desk with a sofa, and so that I'm sitting, and so that my bed is actually specifically for sleeping because I used to struggle with insomnia. And so I want to before bed like have a routine so that my body knows, okay, you're going to sleep now. So, sometimes I'll light some incense, and there's this one. This one's pretty strong. This will like smoke. This will set off these smoke alarms. So I'll light some incense, be present for the shower, feel how good it feels. Recently, I've just been showering in cold water for the last maybe 2 months. I've just been using the cold water because that's supposed to be good for you. And then I guess I go to bed, and there were times when I was reading before I went to bed, and that would help put me to sleep. But I'm not sure if I'm reading because I actually like reading, or if I'm reading because I think it looks good on the person that I would want to be. I don't know, man. So a lot of what I'm doing now is just working on being present for those things because I want to enjoy them now, but I also want to be good at them in the future. They say the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago, and the second best time is now. So I'm trying to be consistent with those things. No New Year's resolutions, no new me, just me trying to be consistent with what I know will help me be the person, help me increasingly be the person that I want to be. So that's it. Apart from those things, I guess that I am working on the level to which I don't give a fuck about what other people think of me. Because I consider people's feelings way too much. Because I don't want to hurt people. But it's not that I'm afraid of saying no. It's that I feel like there's a lot of background anxiety associated with how much I consider other people before I consider myself. And the more I was telling a friend this today, the more I listen to outside opinions of my circumstances, the more I realize that I have normalized a situation that's challenging. And so I have to revisit my boundaries. I have a father who has always been absent emotionally. I've said this before. He only speaks to me and my brother when he wants something. And he will refer to us as boy or fella. I find him very difficult to be around because what's important to him is to hear good morning or good night, especially good morning. If he doesn't hear that you've said good morning, he gets angry. But outside of good morning, he doesn't say anything else to us. So this is an annoyance for me, and I try to spend as little time around him as possible. Another thing is that he has a mental decline. My brother doesn't know how much of this is actually mental decline, though, because before this, he tended to be the same person who is very self-centered. He, again, just like my mother, is more than one thing, and people tend to see him in a particular light because he was the chief education officer of Barbados at one point, and apparently that meant something to people. People still remember it to this day. But to me, he was an absent father. So whenever I see people and they ask me, "Oh, how's your father?" it would rub salt in this wound of his absenteeism and his hypocrisy, because he's spoken a lot about being a father, and I'm realizing that this is turning into a video about my father. Let's let this be a separate video. I just guess want to know from you, what are you working on? Because, like I said, I'm just working on being more consistent and on not caring as much what other people think, because what's important is what works for you in your life, because it's your life. And yeah, I'd like to know, what are you working on? Thanks for listening. I don't do New Year's resolutions.